Right, so what is up, Reason lovers? Um, as you can see, before I jump off this very quickly, you'll notice that I have more than one door, uh, and that's, for some of you, digital audio workstation. That's what I mean by door. I have more than one door on this particular laptop. I have another computer with couple of other doors, all legitimately acquired, by the way. I'm one of those who I'd like to invest and buy the real deal, or acquire the real deal. You know, sometimes you don't necessarily have to buy it. One of the softwares I think was gifted to me. A couple of softwares I had were gifted to me. Um, but yeah, just wanted to point out I've got more than one door. But by far, before I even start talking, Reason is by far the best door I've personally ever used. This is a copy of Reason 8, and I bought this because I think it was Reason 7.5 or Reason 7 when they released the big SSL mixer. That just drew me in. And when they introduced this ability to be able to select your instruments from here, that just it sucked me right in. I had to have it, but obviously that's not what this video is about. Despite the fact that Reason is the best DAW I've ever used, personally, there are a few things or issues or concerns I have with Reason. Now, Reason are great for throwing everything at you, and I mean, just look at the Dr. X, for example, when it's fully opened up. And some of you would have gone into some of these features, or the subtractor, or the Thor. These things are not the easiest to use, and there's not a great deal of how to within Reason, in the sense that if you went and got something like Ableton, which I'm currently looking at, I'm wanting to buy a copy of Ableton 10 Suite, the Suite version. It's going to take me some time to sort of put the money together. But when I do, I'm going to purchase Ableton, the Suite version. If it's 11 that's out by then, that's fine. But I think 10 has only just been released, so that's what's current. But within Ableton, you can hit like an icon, and it'll basically tell you everything you need to know about that particular feature, which I think is pretty cool. You just like hit a button, and you hit the feature, and then boom, it tells you that. Now, if that feature is available within Reason, I've not seen it yet. But if you open up one of these, for example, these are brilliant, by the way. The stuff you can do. If you're already into that kind of thing, then you're okay because you understand about envelopes and mods and filters, etc. But for somebody who's not into this kind of thing, it's kind of like, well, what the heck is level A, level B, and fem mth? Well, that's going to be envelope. So I think that's female envelope. I don't know. Yeah, what is shift? What's indexed? You know what I mean? There's all this good stuff there, but there isn't anything that actually tells you how to utilize it. And yeah, that's one of the drawbacks. It would be really, really great, and I know you can go up and read about them on Reason, and you can do all sorts of stuff, but it would be really, really great if we had something like what they do with Ableton, where you can just hit a button, go onto that item, and it just tells you what it is straight away, and you're all set. But this is one of the drawbacks. The second thing that is a little bit of a drawback for me when utilizing Reason as a DAW, okay, is it's got a lot of limitations. Okay, and when I say limitations, I mean, number one, and I do know they eventually fixed this. But if you look at some of the color schemes here, you've got powder blue, light blue. Fine, that's a really darker shade of blue. But you've got sky blue, and the steel blue looks like the slate blue. There's not a lot of variety. The wheat looks like the yellow. There's not a lot of variety if you're one of those individuals that likes to have, a different color for every different item. See, I'm not like that. I'm a little bit different, so this kind of works out in my favor. And I know with one of the upgrades, they introduced more colors, but it means you have to upgrade and then do the whole transfer across. I think it was Reason 8.2. I don't know what the newer Reasons are like. I've not yet used them, but what the color schemes are like. This is just going basically off Reason 8 and probably anything below it. Well, they didn't have the SSL mixer, and that's another limitation, in the sense that you had to rely on a couple of these. Well, you've got that one up here, and you've got this one, which is the bigger one. By the way, sidebar, I love using these in the combinators. And that's another thing, going back to my first point. Combinators. These things are amazing. You can create your own VST. Personally, if I was head of marketing within Reason, I would be pushing masterclasses, etc., to tell people that, when you just sat there and you're thinking, I wish I had a device that did X, Y, and Z and did this. Actually, you probably can do whatever it is that 70% of what you've thought about in your head within Reason by creating it yourself, if only you knew how. And using one of these within the combinators and creating your own combinator, i.e. VST, you could really get some great results within your music. And you can reuse those brilliant results over and over again, but they'll be completely unique to you because it's something that you've created. So you'll have people out there trying to mimic and recreate what you've done, and they'll never quite get it because it's something that you built yourself. And I think this is a drawback, in the sense that Reason didn't really push this too much. A bit of complacency, if you ask me. That's just my opinion. Other people may come around and say something else, but I think if they had pushed it a little bit more, they could have actually changed the way the market goes, and it could have influenced the price of VSTs, because it could have brought them back down. Because if other software providers started doing something similar, it would mean a change in the way in which producers do things, rather than everybody say, right, the latest Dr. Dre beat is out. The kick has been decommissioned, it's for sale, and everyone goes and buys that latest kick from that track, tweaks it, uses it within their own track, and they're like, yay, I've got a really sick beat. You could learn to do that yourself, and everybody can become a Dre. So that was something that could have been a real turning point in the Reason world. And I think personally, if they'd pushed that a bit more, we could have gotten a lot more out of Reason, a lot more notoriety as Reason users than we do now. Everyone's talking about Pro Tools and and nobody really talks about Reason. I know they now have the whole rewiring stuff and the VST. Some good stuff is coming, don't get me wrong. Overall, I love Reason, but you've got to talk about some of these drawbacks. And some people may not agree, that's fine. Some people do. Here's another section here. Number 3, Reason have some great, particularly if you're from an analog background. Reason have some fantastic functionality built in. But if you ask half the people out there, have you ever gone into this section to actually see the individual levels of each channel and select them from down here? Have you, checked the VU meters, etc.? They'll tell you, nah. And the reason why I think that's a letdown is because there's a lot of individuals out there that got into mixing. I watch these shows on YouTube every now and again where they bring in these mix engineers, and it's free conferences that you can go for in the States, and they're probably going to be sponsored by some audio plugin company or whatever, and they bring in these guys who've mixed tracks for some big artists, and they get them to sit there and just break down the track, how they've done it, etc. And the one thing you constantly hear about these guys is they always talk about how they're from the old school, and they mention things like VU meters, and they mention all these things like limiters, and and they talk about some of the stuff that's here. And what you need to understand that is a lot of these tracks that we listen to, particularly from the 90s and the 80s, were mixed on SSL mixers, these hard, solid consoles. um, and they had all this outboard gear. And Reason has given us a simulator that mimics some of this stuff, but has a lot of these features in there. But these guys aren't using Reason to mix, you know? And this is a drawback for me because they constantly talk about how back in their time they would have used back in their time they would have used this, and they're talking to all these youngsters. And whilst Reason provides quite a very good, in my opinion, a very good uh, sort of simulator, software based simulator, it just never pushed or put itself out there to say, you know what, guys, you guys from the old school, here's a couple of, a bunch of free copies. Rekindle what you used to know within Reason. Oh yeah, and by the way, here's how to do everything. And it could have made a difference. So I really look at the guys at Propellerhead and say, come on, guys. You showed up to the party. Yeah, you came a bit late, but you came with some valuable stuff. And I know Reason's been around for a while, but it's not the oldest door out there. You came with some valuable stuff, and you just sat on it, hoping that it would sell itself, which is a little bit annoying. And little cool things like, I'm using a Mackie DL32S, and it highlights it right there to say, you know what, here's the hardware interface that you're using, da 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 da. It's 32 channel mixer, but anyway, it's quite a lot of cool features here. One of the things I wanted to talk about before I move on is, did any of you know that you can, when you're doing your tracks within Reason, say you've got some audio tracks running down here, some waveforms or whatever it is, and you've got the monitor feature. In fact, let's just open up a track. There you go. So you've got that monitor feature there. Okay. Did any of you know that the volume control for that feature was actually over here? I bet you none of you knew that, and some of you will be sat there going, "I wish I could increase it." Yeah, some of my artists tell me that the volume in the monitor is not loud enough. Da 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 da. And yeah, some of you didn't know that. These are some of the annoying sort of things that I discovered that by mistake, really. But these are the things where you just sort of think, come on, guys. You really could have made a massive impact. Possibly they just didn't see it coming. But all this good stuff, inversions and signal processing, and this was all there. It was all there. It was ready for the taking. Reason could have been right up at the top, a contender. But Propellerhead, you played too much, man. You really played too much. Again, this is all my opinion. Nobody will ever be able to tell me that Reason is not a good door. I love Reason. Absolutely love Reason. But again, you have to talk about some of these things. So yeah, these are some of the gripes I have with Reason, and trust you me, they've come a long way. The stuff that they're doing with Reason 11 now, I've not really gone into it and how everything is supposed to sort of join from one thing to another, but one thing I can tell you is, from the little bit I've been able to glean, the partnerships they've had, what they're working on with the whole VST situation, etc., they're definitely heading in the correct direction. But it could have been the other way around. It could have been those companies coming to Reason, asking them to work with them, and Reason sort of turning their nose into their Propellerhead, sort of turning their nose into their, going, we'll think about it and we'll get back to you. You know what I mean? I like to see my, the stuff I use, the door, I like to see the stuff work and be at the top, because I think Propellerhead have a great product. I think they prepare their product for, mostly they prepared their product for a specific niche. And whilst they may have been really good to the users that we're able to stumble across and find out that, hey, hang on a second, this is brilliant. I stumbled across it because I stumbled across a video where I was trying to learn about compression many years ago, and someone was showing how to do compression within reason, and the more I watched, I was listening less and less to the compression, and my jaw was just hitting the ground more and more with regards to what reason was capable of. And it's that one video, within the next few weeks or so, Reason 8 got released, and the guy said it on the video. He said, "Oh, this is 7.5, but guys, just be patient. Reason 8 is about to come out." I was like, "Get that?" I waited for Reason 8, and the second it was out, I was running around in stores trying to look for it. Nobody had a full copy. They only had upgrades. So I ended up buying it from Germany, ordering it for a company called Thomann in Germany, and I just ordered it straight home, and I had to wait the 3 or 4 days for it to arrive. But man, when it came, I was so happy. I'd already started working on the because they let you download it, but you can't reopen projects. So there's some stuff I'd started messing around with, and obviously when my package finally came, I was able to then go back into those tracks, and revisit them. But boy, guys, there's a lot that Reason has to offer. A lot of unique things that at the time, had they pushed, it would be a completely different ball game. Reason, producers that use Reason would be the most sought after. We would be the go-to people because we would have had all that experience at the time when the industry blew up. But yeah, I just think Propel had maybe let us down a little bit there. Still love them to bits. Like I said, Reason will always be, for me, the number one DAW. I don't think, and I don't see anything else coming up. I've used quite a lot of these newer ones that they're not so popular. So like, for example, Traction, I think they call it Waveform now. And though it's not as popular, they came up with some new concepts of like, we want to have everything on one page, no more flicking between pages. And at first I was like, oh, that's silly. Nah. And I was forced into using it in a particular situation where we needed a free DAW. They didn't want to have to pay for one, and they'd ordered this device which came with Traction. So I said, oh, you know what? I'll use this software that I've never heard of, and we'll use that as your DAW. I said it may not be as good as Reason. It definitely wasn't. But I think it will do the job. So I had to sit down and learn how to use this whole new DAW. And to be honest with you, I quite like the idea. I quite appreciated the idea of having everything on one page without having to do stuff like this. And I know you guys have been there where you're like, oh crap, I've not covered up the thing I'm working on. What channel was it? And you have to open it wider and say, I'm looking for the the bit, there it is, audio track 1, and then you move it into place and you do that, and then once you open it up you think, oh crap, I can't see the inserts now, and then you have to bring it back down. Obviously I want a laptop, and sometimes when I go out to on site and I mix on site, I just get to take my laptop. I can't really travel with a second screen or the third screen every single time. So it's one of those where I have to try and do everything within the box on a single laptop screen. And this is a 13.5 inch MacBook Pro. It's not the easiest of things to do. But with Traction, the way they've set it up, you've got everything on one page. And everything is done on one page. And it's not as clumpy as it is. I mean, they found a way of making things work. It doesn't look as pretty. But then again, DAWs like, what's this I was busy talking about that I want to buy earlier on? What was I talking about? Ableton. DAWs like Ableton, they don't look anything pretty at all. I mean, that's the ugliest DAW. I remember the first time I saw it, a friend of mine was using it, and I said, dude, you need to throw that thing in the bin, go out and get yourself Reason. And he listened to me. Now I had to text him and say, you still have that that piece of software you had that we all thought was ugly?" And he's like, "Oh no, I threw it away." I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind." Because now I'm looking for for Ableton. I went back begging. I know, I know, I know. But I didn't realize what Ableton was capable of. I just looked at the interface and I thought, this is being used for people who do like that psychedelic stuff. They're mostly using this stuff. It's rubbish. I used to live with a guy who's a DJ. He used to DJ all around the world at these psychedelic techno festivals, and he was using Ableton. He didn't really know much about production, but he used it for his DJing, and now I've seen the power of Ableton. I'm really, really hooked. I don't think I would ever use it for a full-on production, because I've seen other people do full-on productions within Ableton. It's not a bad piece of software once you know how to use it, but the workflow within Reason, nothing out there will ever beat how well you can work within Reason, particularly if you're coming from an analog background like I am. So Reason, hands up. For me, will always be the best because of that. And so that's my little rant. If you agree with me, disagree with me, stick a comment below. Let's have a conversation about it. For those of you who want to laugh at me for the fact that I went back crawling to the guy who I told to throw away Ableton, and then later on I went back crawling to say, "Do you still have that software?" And he's like, "No, why?" And I was like, "Oh, never mind. I was checking just to see, it's a friend of mine, yeah. But if you don't have it, don't worry too much about it." I was gonna offer to buy it off him. He threw it away, and because he had gotten it for free, an original copy for free. He chucked it away. He went out and bought Reason, and that's what he's using. He's gonna be so vexed when he sees me using Ableton going forward, because we do a lot of live events together. But we shall see. Anyway, that's gonna be the end of my video here. I'll catch you guys in the next vid. Peace.